Yes, you can do a dress rehearsal for the future. The Honorable Moses Kuria.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
Good evening and karibu sana. Welcome to the committee. Honorable members,
Thank you.
please take your seat. Honorable Moses Kuria, welcome to the committee. This is a committee where you are appearing before most of members of your former colleagues.
Yes, Your Chair.
This is a committee set up under the standing orders, the law and the constitution to vet persons like yourself who have been nominated by His Excellency the President to serve in cabinet as cabinet secretaries. And we have been sitting here since yesterday, listening to your colleagues, exchanging views, members asking interrogative questions, and so far so good. So it's now your turn. You are welcome to the committee, and I will now ask the clerk to administer the oath. You may choose, depending on your faith, to have the Quran, the Bible, or affirmation.
I, Moses Kuria, do hereby swear to testify on all matters in question and tell this committee the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Honorable Moses Kuria, thank you. This committee is chaired by yours truly, the Speaker.
Thank you, Chair.
And we have members who I will invite to introduce themselves, starting with the Honorable Wandai.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, my name is Opio Wandai, the MP for Ugunja.
My name is Junet Mohammed, MP Suna East.
My name is Owen Baya, MP Kilifi North.
Robert Mbui, MP Kadhiani.
Rehab Mokami, County MP Nyeri.
Ferdinand Kevin Onyonyi, Member of Parliament Kwanza, Trans Nzoia County.
George Gitonga Murugara, Tharaka.
Kosing David, MP Pogo South.
Abdul Rahim Daud, MP North Imenti, Meru County.
Honorable Mishimboko, MP Likoni.
Nelson Koech, MP Belgost.
Good evening, Caleb Amisi, MP Saboti.
Dido Raso, MP Saku.
Abdi Shurie, Balambala.
Emma Semeri, Teso South.
Stephen Mule, Matungulu.
David Gikare, your friend, Nakuru Town is constituency.
Naisula Lesuda, MP Samburu West.
Description should come from Janet, from the Pangana experience. Honorable Kuria.
Yes, Chair.
This meeting is not adversarial. Like we have told all members, we want to have a candid, open exchange of ideas. Members are interested in establishing your suitability for the nomination you have gotten as our Minister for Trade, Investment and Industry. We want to have a cordial exchange, observe basic rules of the committee, address the committee through the chair. Members will also ask you questions through the chair. We limit any direct exchange between yourself and the committee members, and we will encourage you to answer questions as precisely and as concisely as they are asked. And members asking also, we expect you to be concise and precise. And in the interest of time, when you ask a question, give time to the nominee to answer. Let's not veer off the line too much. I will now ask you to present certain documents, which if you have sent to us and you have the originals, they'll be compared by the clerks and the originals will be given back to you. Do you have the compliance with tax obligations? That's the KRA tax compliance?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chair.
Clearance with the Higher Education Loans Board?
Yes, I do.
Clearance with Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission?
Yes, I do.
Certificate of Good Conduct from the DCI?
Yes, I do.
Have you ever been charged in a court of law and convicted of an offense?
I've been charged but never convicted.
Are you a dual citizen of Kenya and any other jurisdiction?
No, Mr. Chair.
Excellent. We go to, what is your value? What is your financial net worth?
My financial net worth, Mr. Chair, is 750 million shillings.
You have a segregated breakdown?
I do not, but I can proceed to tell you the distribution.
You can tell the committee on Hansard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My net worth is comprising of real estate development and shares held in unlisted companies in my business concerns, in manufacturing, in fintech, and in energy sector.
Excellent. And
Chair,
yes,
I wanted him to, not to interrupt you, Chair. He's the chairman of Independent Petroleum Dealers, so whether the shares are there.
Chair, I said as much, but Honorable Junet being one of my members, I welcome that. Thank you.
So we may require both of you to disclose further and better particulars. Honorable members, I'll open the floor by asking the Honorable Moses Kuria that will give you 10 minutes. If you spend less, the better. That clock will start ticking. We should be done with you in 90 minutes. Tell us the story of your life till the arrival of where you're sitting.
Thank you, Chair. I was born 51 years ago in Gatundu South in Kiambu County. I attended primary school in a school by the name of Githoya Primary in Gatundu South. That is between the year 1977 and the year 1983. I attended another school called Itulo High School in Gatundu South for my O-levels between the year 1984 and 1987, and I passed with flying colors. I proceeded for my A-levels, Thika High School, between the year 1988 and the year 1989. Again, I passed well, and I was admitted to the University of Nairobi, in the year 1990 for a Bachelor of Commerce degree, specializing in accounting and finance. I graduated in the year 1993, and between 1994 and 1995, I worked for various organizations, including Total and Diane Brea Investment Bank. In the year 1995, I joined Standard Chartered Bank all the way to 1999. And in the year 1999, I was poached by a bank in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia by the name of Al-Aji Bank, which happens to be the largest Islamic bank in the world. I worked there for 4 years, and in the year 2003, I teamed up with my colleagues in the Gulf region, and we set up a banking and financial sector consultancy by the name of Wamad International, and we consulted for banks and other organizations in the area of technology, Islamic finance, and business processes across the entire Middle East. Represented some leading companies in technology from Europe and India, in Middle East and North Africa, and later on the entire Africa. I came back to Kenya in the year 2007 at the invitation of the late Mwai Kibaki, who was my friend, and he asked me to assist as a consultant in his government, and I worked in that role until the year 2008. In the year 2008, I joined then Minister for Trade, the Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, as his technical advisor on trade matters. Later on, the Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta was transferred to the National Treasury as the Minister for Finance, and I moved there as also a technical advisor in the Treasury until his election as President in the year 2013. In the year 2014, there was a by-election in Gatundu South constituency following the sad demise of the then Member of Parliament, Honorable Joseph Ngugi. I offered myself for election in that by-election, and I won. I was the first person in the new constitution to be elected and opposed. Later on, some members who are sitting here would copy from me, including the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah. And later on, to the year 2017, I was again re-elected in Gatundu South until the year 2022. And I held that job. I offered myself to be the governor of Kiambu County. I did not succeed. And I was then nominated by President William Samoei Ruto to be the cabinet secretary in the docket of in the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry. And that's how I am here, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Moses Kuria. I'll now open the floor to members. Honorable members, I'll be strict on direct one question each for the member, the nominee, to answer in the same manner. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Maybe I should also begin by declaring interest, standing on the number 90, because Honorable Moses Kuria, besides being my colleague, has been Member of Parliament in my county and my very close friend since we joined Parliament together. But Honorable Speaker, that being so, here is also copied. He said he attended the University of Nairobi, having missed attending the Alliance High School, to Ituru Boys, so Ituru Secondary School. But that being so, Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Moses Kuria, you're taking over a docket that is very important. And trade between our country and Uganda, you know, Uganda is our topmost bilateral trade partner in the region. But there exists a huge potential between our country and Ethiopia. I would want to hear what your thoughts are in relation to cross-border trade between our country and our neighboring countries, Ethiopia, and access to the African free trade area in the larger region. Also on matters to do with trade, you are aware that our traders here in Nairobi and in many other urban centers suffered immensely under the previous regime, especially our traders in downtown Nyamakima, Kamukunji, in Isli. And since these are trade docket issues, right from the question of standards under KEBS to the smooth clearance of goods at the port of Mombasa, I would also want to hear thoughts on that. Honorable Speaker, if you indulge me, the Honorable Moses Kuria has also indicated that he has been charged severally. I think he forgot the word severally. But he has indicated he has never been convicted. However, Honorable Moses Kuria, there is an affidavit that has been filed by a petitioner who alleges that you once confessed to having received some bribe somewhere. I don't know the authenticity of these allegations, whether it is indeed true, as the petitioner says, that you have confessed to having taken a bribe. With that, Honorable Speaker, I'm good.
You'll take 4. Okay. Wandai.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Kuria, you know, unlike some of us in this room who know you, okay, a number of Kenyans out there tend to misunderstand you. Sometimes they perceive you as someone who is divisive, who can cause animosity by the way you carry yourself and the manner you communicate. What assurance can you give Kenyans in live television that you mean well for the cohesion of the country, the unity of Kenya, being a multi-ethnic, multiracial society, that Kenyans should not feel afraid when they hear your name or when they see you? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Chairman. Chairman, I want to state that Moses Kuria is my friend. We spent 4 to 5 days together in Pangani in the cell.
You should also disclose that I came there to see you.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, it's true. I was coming to that. So you also visited us there and you gave us some legal advice. And he did a lot of things there, but that's a subject for discussion another day. But now now that will not stop me from vetting him now, Mr. Chairman. So the question I wanted to put to him is, if you are approved and made the Minister for Transport, for Trade, how will you deal with this question of counterfeit goods? Because it is becoming a delicate issue in this country on how to protect the local manufacturing industry and the counterfeit goods that are coming from outside. So how will you strike a balance between the two so that you save the people who are manufacturing locally and you also don't stop people who are coming from importing goods are being told that you are bringing counterfeit goods? What is your vision on that? And lastly, the issue of trade imbalance. Like if you see this, there's a question here that it's now 120 billion shillings, the trade imbalance. How do you intend to address that? What are your thoughts on that? Thank you very much.
Yes, Robert.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Chair, I still want to deal with Chapter 6, which is very important for nomination and election or appointment of public or state officers. And we must look at that article in terms of deed and word. Now, the nominee is publicly known. He's a very highly publicly known individual. His comments, his on Twitter, on Facebook. His temperament has actually been highly publicized. He himself did say that he was bribed by the Honorable Amos Kimunya. And Peter Mungai's affidavit, which is in our files, states that in in 2013, he threatened to hunt down those that had voted for Raila Amolo Odinga. Again, I understand early this year from this affidavit, he threatened to remove one of Uhuru's, I cannot say the word, maybe he can, male engine parts. And he's been noted on national TV using 4-letter words. And not to forget that he once walked out of a TV live interview. So I'd like to ask the nominee, do you honestly feel that you sufficiently qualify to pass the integrity test?
Moses, you can answer those 4.
Thank you very much. Chair, I will...
Speaker, not to interrupt, Honorable Speaker, but with your indulgence, I don't know whether Honorable Mbui said some of the things he's saying are in the affidavit.
They are in the file, Speaker. I picked from the file.
Go on and answer, Moses. I don't think those are insurmountable questions.
Chair, if I may seek guidance, can I choose any order to answer?
Yes.
Okay, so that I can...
All the 4 questions.
Thank you very much.
In as precise a manner as they were precisely asked.
Thank you. Chair, I ask that because I would want to dispense on the whole issue surrounding Chapter 6 that have been raised by Honorable Robert Boy and my good friend Honorable Ichungo and Honorable Opio and I. We've come from a very divisive phase in the politics of our country. Most of us were players in that contest for a long time. And for myself, this contest was, or this participation was way even before I became a member of parliament, since I came back to this country in 2007. So I've been around for around 15 years. I was also around before even I went into professional practice. I should have mentioned that I was the treasurer of the student organization of Nairobi University. So I was politically exposed from that point. And I grew up under the wings and tutelage of Kennedy Matiba and Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. So from the onset, I was weaned and grew up at the time that you were agitating for multipartyism and democracy in this country. That kind of a background at a very early age, because I started working with the team of Matiba and Jaramogi. I was part of the Sabasaba movement. I was there at Kamukunji when we were fighting for removal of Section 2A when I was only 21 years old. And as a participant, we've been involved in, yes, very divisive moments. And the division that characterized this country also shaped many people. So that's a reality. It can only be my hope and desire that all of us collectively will be able to see a Kenya that now, because that is now you're talking about 30 years, that you can be able to graduate into better political culture that is more issue-based, that is not personality-based. Within those 30 years of divisive politics, we've all collectively said things and done things which to each other we need to have a moment of repentance and forgiveness against each other. And that is not just to me, that is to many political players in this country. So let me say that any perceived extremism or divisiveness on my side has been shaped by the kind of political culture we've had. And going forward, as we progress, I am going to play my role in ensuring that we have a culture where political competition is not enmity, but it's just that, competition. And I do not think that personally, as a person, I have got anything within my DNA that is synonymous with hate or extremism or separation. I have been in this parliament. I enjoy very cordial relations with most of these members, good moments and bad moments, and with most political players. And so to answer the question of the Honorable Robert Boy, I think I passed that master of chapter 6 that would enable me to play my role in taking this country forward. I am cognizant and aware of the accusation by one of the affidavits that was received about having accepted to receiving a bribe. And I think that matter was taken out of context. I was called upon to explain my comment by the speaker, and the speaker did point out to anything within my comments that was deemed to be external, and the speaker ruled on that matter. Whatever I said that was outside, including some comment that was not very good to my friend Junet, whereby I actually said that comment confusing our social life outside with life inside Parliament. But I would say that I was called upon by the speaker to explain. I explained, and in my honest and humble opinion, that matter is spent and is res judicata. And that's what I can say about it. To answer to Honorable Opio and Dice, again, as he say correctly, misunderstood. I am misunderstood in some quarters, but those quarters are mostly within social media and elite circles. If you go to most corners of this country, they know me as a peace-loving Kenyan who is committed to cohesion and who has worked a lot to bring people together. As I can say from some of the region where someone like Opio and I come from, a place like Kondele, I am the second most popular person after Raila Odinga, and that's on record. So I am committed to cohesion, and Kenyans can look upon me as somebody who is going to work to bring Kenyans together. Thank you, Mr. Chair, on that issue of Chapter 6. I wanted to dispense on it so that we can, in my opinion, or my request,
Chair,
spend time to...
Chair, again, on a point of order.
Yes.
Chair, I think why I raised the issue of the issues the Honorable Mbui was raising, because I have actually traced the particular issues he was pointing to. And one of them, Honorable Chair, is an email from a Peter Mungai, not on an affidavit, and therefore, Honorable Speaker, in line with all procedures, is not admissible, and the Honorable Mbui should not be allowed to even quote it, refer to it in... It should be a mistake from the clerk's office, because anything on email that is not an affidavit, Honorable Speaker, I think you should guide us on whether we should be referring to emails, because nothing stops any member of the public from making whatever manner of allegation, and those are the things that the Honorable Bui was referring to.
Chair, I wanted to just respond to the majority leader and say that that is not made up. I have found it in the file, and I have meticulously read through the file. So yes, it is not an affidavit, but it is part of the contents of the file that has been placed in front of us for us to be able to use to vet the nominee. And also I believe the nominee is able and capable of answering even allegations, because that's basically why we are here. Thank you, Chair.
You know, the standing orders is very clear that any member of the public who wishes to bring to the attention of the committee anything adverse against a nominee must bring it by way of affidavit. The clerk tells me that out of exuberance, they decided to pass on to the nominees even materials that were not admissible under the standing orders. So to the extent that that is an email, Robert, we rule that it's inadmissible. Let's deal with the affidavits that are on record, and we have furnished them to the nominee. I believe you got them, Moses?
Yes, I did.
Yes. Did you not waive money that you had received a bribe from Kimunya? I think that is what Ichungo was asking.
Chair, I think when I waived the money, I did not say it was from Kimunya. I was only pointing out that there has been efforts to control Parliament from outside. And I believe Parliament is a very important institution. And if I am approved by this House, Chair, I will do everything possible to ensure that for those of us in executive, leave Parliament to do its own work.
Are you waiving your own money?
Yes, I was waiving my own money.
The next batch of 4?
Chair, I think I have some questions I didn't answer.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to dispense on
okay, fine.
chapter 6 issues. So that,
the remaining questions?
Yes. So on the question by Honorable Shongwa about Ethiopia, indeed, as a very pertinent issue. Ethiopia is a huge market, 120 million in population. It represents a very big opportunity for Kenya in terms of matters trade. And not just Ethiopia, the whole of Africa is a very huge opportunity. Kenya has deposited all the instruments under the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And if I'm approved by this House, one of my priority areas is to ensure that Kenya exploits the huge potential of intra-Africa trade. Currently, intra-Africa trade is only 19%, and this is a conversation we'll be having with my colleagues across Africa to be able to raise this percentage to somewhere even in the region of our East African community, intra-regional trade, which is now standing at 45%. Only 2 weeks ago, I was in Ethiopia as part of President William Ruto's delegation when we launched Safaricom Ethiopia. Again, a very important milestone there. We did even push for Safaricom Ethiopia to get its mobile money business there, and the issue of Safaricom and M-Pesa enabling trade and enabling us to trade within each other is very important. I look forward to working with our side and Ethiopian side to be able to even work to ensure that we can use our local currencies for trade. Both countries, Kenya and Ethiopia, are having some challenges on the forex market, and so there exist opportunities for us to use our local currencies for trade. We have now around 35 countries have deposited instruments within the ACFTA, and indeed opportunities really do abound. Again, 2.5 weeks ago, Kenya did flag off, President Ruto did flag off the first consignment of tea to Ghana under the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Guided Trade Mechanism. President Ramaphosa is expected here in the next few weeks in this endeavor of ensuring that Africa, before we look for markets beyond our borders, we exploit what exists here. I've been a question about our traders in the informal sector, in Nyamakema, in all other areas. And it's true that our business community and traders have gone through very difficult times having their goods auctioned. We've had before presidential events for banning of goods. Not before you used to have banning of ivory and such kind of things. Now we've had presidential events for banning of goods, and what I would want to assure our business community that if I'm approved for this position, I will ensure that our people are free to do business and to have an environment where they are not. We have to stop the culture of criminalizing enterprise, and that's why we say as Kenya Kwanza that every hustle matters. The question by Honorable Junet Mohammed about counterfeit is very important. But let me say this about counterfeit. If I have had this discussion with our anti-counterfeit agency, I would wish that the efforts we extend to fight counterfeit is for protecting local manufacturers. Committee who asked me for this help, the honorable member for Nakuru East is in this committee. So because we need to have this conversation and be able to separate, is it counterfeit or substandard? For substandard, we are going to use all efforts possible to stop substandard goods and believe in ourselves as a country. I have expressed my intention, Mr. Chair. We now have pre-shipment inspection that happens in other countries. And by the way, we do spend a lot of our money, dollars, foreign currency that we don't have, to some very young companies in China and other countries. It is my assumption that before these goods come to this country, because our pre-shipment inspection is done there, shouldn't we have inspected for counterfeit there? much as we inspect for standards here, why do we let a container come all the way from Guangzhou in China, come here, and then when it comes here, we talk about counterfeit? I have expressed intention to open a window of shipment inspection and post-shipment inspection. If you choose to have your goods inspected in China, you will have them inspected in China. Also, I'm going to open a window to have these goods inspected here so that we can take responsibility for our own. And maybe if it's inspection is happening in Mombasa, that is more business for the people of Mombasa, more jobs for the people of Mombasa. Most importantly, to stop the hemorrhage of foreign currency when we send this for inspection. So we are going to look at all this, look at counterfeit within the context of doing the most important thing, protecting our local manufacturers so that they can protect our jobs and growing manufacturing to 20% of GDP by the year 2030. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Owen, everybody. Your name is everybody. Mukami, Ferdinand, Murugara after Owen. Since everybody wants, I'll just give everybody.
Thank you very much, Speaker and Chair. On Moses Kuria, as you wait for confirmation to take office, I would like to know your thoughts on the African Growth and Opportunities Act and the expansion of EPZ. The Kenya Kwanza manifesto talks about job creation, and EPZ has been one of those instruments that we have used through the AGOA Treaty to actually expand and increase jobs within the country. But again, there are challenges. A lot of investors who would want to come here and actually invest within EPZ and AGOA have issues of land. Where do they get land? The cost of land in this country to set up factories and manufacturing is exorbitant. It's prohibitive. It makes investors not want to go into this. How will you restructure EPZ such that there is availability of land, that we take advantage of the opportunities offered, bring in more manufacturing, save the foreign currency, like you're saying, and also take care of the welfare of the people who work within EPZ so that they feel that they're properly employed? Thank you.
Mukami.
Thank you, Chair. Congratulations to the nominee, Moses Kuria. I know you have what it takes considering you're in this industry. I served in trade committee last term, and trade and industry, there were so many challenges. Moses, I want to ask you, what are some of the policies you put in place to promote agro-processing, value addition, and diversification of products by Kenyans farmers? You remember when we are going out to this country, we were telling our farmers that we are going to make sure that they will have guaranteed minimum return for their tea, for their coffee, for their milk. Another question, what measures will you take to ensure that all the stored projects, because there are so many projects which are stored, because trade and industry, we were not getting money, there was no budget for that. What are you going to do to make sure that you give them priority to finish those projects? Thank you.
Ndugu Moses Kuria, you are up with the task. I'm just asking, we have a lot of unemployment in this country, particularly the youths. We've had even university graduates roaming around the streets, and some of them are doing informal businesses. How are you going to help us in your ministry, if you are taken, to be able to have these youths? Some of them are still, in fact, when you go in my area, you find some of them, but I saw one guy who has done masters in physical sciences, and it was on the TV, all the way from Siaya, actually making clothes, sewing clothes. So what will you have as a ministry to be able to enable these youths actually get employment?
Rugara.
Thank you, Chairman. Nominee, first and foremost, I think you've told us that maybe last week, His Excellency the President flagged off some crop produce to Ghana.
Yes.
My question is on trade. How do we brand our produce which we are exporting such that we do not have other people branding our produce as their own and selling it at better prices than we are doing, because that may be one contributor of the imbalance in trade. Number two,
entitled to one question.
Sorry. Sorry, let me, the real one now is here. I represent a rural constituency. The real question, that was for Kenya now. Let me ask you something for Tharaka. I represent a rural constituency. We've talked of unemployment. We've talked of everything that is negative about rural constituencies. And I would like to hear from you, what plans do you have in terms of investment and industry in rural areas and rural towns and markets, including Marimanti, which you know very well in Tharaka, so that those who live down there do not feel that it's only a rural urban migration that can assist them procure jobs, but we would, as a government, be taking jobs to those people in those rural areas.
Moses, those are 4. Let me add Dawood to make 5.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To my friend Moses, one of the key pledges of Kenya Kwanza manifesto is the decriminalization of small enterprises and small traders who have suffered the harassment by county government officials. What steps would your ministry take to create viable markets within various towns and promote small-scale traders, including the youths who would want to establish businesses, but innovation is lacking. Innovation is there, but funds for innovation expansion is lacking. So how would you create those policies so that they can make factories? We can do the factories, what are they in China or wherever in Kenya and in the rural areas, together with Mukami's question of agro-processing. What would you do regarding value addition to Mira in locally and in the diaspora? Thank you.
You can answer those 5, Moses.
Thank you, Chair. The Honorable Owen Bayer has asked a very important question about AGOA, the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act. This act is coming to a close in 2025. As in my submission to Parliament, you've seen that I'm a player within AGOA, within EPZ. We now have 138 enterprises within that, so that's a space I know very well because I'm one of them. We have concern about AGOA extension. We are watching closely what is happening within the United States. We are supposed to be replacing AGOA with a bilateral agreement which has been in negotiation. It is not clear as we speak about the direction that the Biden administration is taking on AGOA. Because there has been mixed signals whether AGOA is going to be extended, whether the Biden administration is still committed to the Trump administration's initiated bilateral agreement with Kenya. And this is a conversation which informally I've been having with the United States. It is pointing to two things. One, there's a likelihood that we are going to have a stopgap sort of agreement, what we are calling the Strategic Trade and Investment Partnership, STIP, with the United States, as we seek more clarity on the direction to take on the bilateral agreement. But on AGOA itself, we're going to have, if I'm approved by this House, a trade conference, meeting of African ministers later this year. And Kenya is going to push for a common position for Africa that we have to have AGOA extended. Like all agreements, they are also subject to local politics. So by that time, I think in the next 2-3 weeks, we are going to have the midterm elections in the US, something which I'll be watching very closely to see which direction the Congress takes. But irrespective of whatever happens, Africa and Kenya being on the front line is going to ask that we take a common African position, and that is that AGOA is not going anywhere. So we will be coming back to this House to seek support, even as we deal with the other legislatures within the African continent, and to also express strongly the desire of Kenyan people and the African people that this act is very useful. It has grown jobs. We are exporting quite a lot under AGOA. We have not even exploited the list of products and services that can be exported within AGOA. So short answer is whether we are going for bilateral or not bilateral, whether we are going for the short-term strategic initiative or not, it is my commitment and the commitment of President William Ruto to push within the African context that we are able to ring fence and protect AGOA. He has also asked another important question about the EPZ and the special economic zone. And I think another question has been asked about the cost of land for the EPZ. By the way, we don't have shortage of land for manufacturing. What we have is a lot of EPZ allocated in most of the counties that has not been developed. And I've had this discussion with the president, and we have agreed that we are going to fast track development of every idle space. Because of the political problems that our neighbors in Ethiopia went through, most of the Ethiopia was suspended from AGOA, and so therefore all that there's a lot of demand for industrial space within the EPZ. Sri Lanka had similar problems, which also lowered their exports, especially to key markets like the United States. So to be able to take advantage of this upsurge in demand, especially from the US and key markets like China and Europe, it is our desire that we are going to develop every available space. At the same breath, we have got two flagship, let me call them three. One is not very apparent. We have got the Dongo Kundu Special Economic Zone in Kwale County, which it is our a very firm instruction from the President that upon approval by this Parliament, we have to make Dongo Kundu move from paper to practice, to take it off so that we can be able to create jobs. The Naivasha Special Economic Zone as well. We are going to see a lot of activities in that area to take it off the ground. We have got investors who have come in with proposals. I think the immediate past government did flag off one of the major investment projects in Naivasha from Turkish investors, and other economic zones, special economic zones. Konza Development City, which doesn't appear like an economic zone, but actually is a special economic zone that, if I'm approved by this House, I am going to be working very hard around the clock to bring in global technology companies within the Konza Technopolis. Two new planned special economic zones. One is a Railway City Development Authority right here in Nairobi, adjacent to the railway, which we hope to be our masterpiece for new urbanization, and the Nairobi International Financial Center to bring together the world leading financial institutions. So these are the public special economic zones, but also our people and also foreign investors have trooped in with private special economic zones. So far we have got around 13 special economic zones by private entities. Our agenda is to have an open door policy. I know a lot of people have been going out there saying, I have applied for my SEZ license, I did not get approval, I have the land, I have have the money. It is inconceivable, Mr. Chair, how you can frustrate somebody who have their own land and they have more money. I'm still trying to grapple with that very, very confusing situation. And so therefore, as a summary, we are going to ensure that we expand our EPZ, and we are going to expand the special economic zones to use our public SEZs like Dongo Kundu, Railway City Developments, Nairobi Financial Sector, and Naivasha, Konza, to be able to spur jobs and bring the much needed foreign exchange in this country. And as the Honorable Owen Bayer has said, even within those EPZ and special economic zones, we are going to work with the stakeholders to ensure that we also protect the rights of workers, and actually do insist to the buyers of the products that come from EPZ and SEZ that we have to commit to fair labor practices and other ethical business behavior. Let me address the question by Honorable Mukami, which is very, very important, on the issue of, and I think also Honorable Murugala has asked us a related question. Is our manufacturing an urban affair? Is it a Nairobi affair? Is it a big city affair? And the answer is no. Even within our Kenya Kwanza manifesto, we have planned aggregation centers in every county. So I want to assure members that in every county, we are going to have an aggregation center where we can be able to help our dengue farmers and even our miraa farmers to aggregate their export, introduce refrigeration. Shortly after, if I am approved by this House, we are planning a pilot one which was already in the works in Naivasha. But I am having this discussion with the Council of Governors to identify our competitive matrix for each county, because every county has got their unique competitiveness in terms of products, and we are going to ensure that not just for value addition, but from these centers we are going to do value addition, but also promote exports. It is my desire also to have a flagship mega manufacturing project in every county according to the unique needs of every county. Kenya, I am really surprised, Mr. Chair, by the demand by foreign manufacturers and also local manufacturers to set up industries in Kenya. We just have not been doing it right. We have treated our investors as if we are doing them a favor. I am going to go on a knee and bend backwards to ask them to come in there and to show them a map of where Malimanti is. So I want to assure members that this issue of aggregation and having industrial hubs in every county is going to be at the heart of my ministry and in the Kenya Kwanza government. Now, attendant to this also is we have not been fair to our people. Expecting a dengue farmer from Malimanti to know of a market and to know who is a buyer from that market and start trading with them is not realistic. So coupled with our aggregation centers that we are going to set up in the counties, we want to set up warehouses in key markets. And we have agreed with the president that we are doing 2 pilots of Kenya warehouse. Call them Kenyan supermarkets if you may. It's like a supermarket but uniquely and exclusive for Kenyan products. One in DRC, in the eastern part of DRC, so that if you are a dengue farmer from Malimanti, or if you are, you export another product, you can be able to take your product from your county aggregation hub to the Goma or Lubumbashi or Dubai, where we are setting up the other Kenyan warehouse, and so that now from that Kenyan warehouse we can be able to sell locally, even through e-commerce to those countries. That way we are going to simplify the trade process. I have no even idea how we have been exporting. Chair, you'll be shocked to know that we only have 18 trade attaches in the whole world. These are the people who are supposed to support us in the matters trade and to support our exporters. Africa, with all the opportunities that I've talked about, we have only 8 trade attaches. We do not have a trade attache in Nigeria, a market of 200 million people. So if I'm approved by this House, I am going to ensure that we have got more trade attaches and trade missions than we have ambassadors. Because what we need is people to help our people to open new markets and to assist and support our exporters in this endeavor. So short answer is that we are going to say that. Honorable Mukami, I know there's a problem of budget for trade. Trade has not been treated very well. I do hope that now this Parliament, under the leadership of the Chair, is going to look more favorably when we come asking for more budget allocations to support trade. All these manenos that I've talked about of trade, of manufacturing, of export, turning to the question by my good friend Honorable Magufuli, the Honorable Wanyonyi, sorry. I normally visit him in his village. He's my good friend. Right. So all this question about manufacturing, about trade, is going to add to jobs. So we cannot get jobs by kneeling down and saying a prayer, much as we are a religious country. We have to manufacture, we have to export, and we have to support our people. So the sum total of all that is going to be more jobs. And as I've said, we are going to decriminalize enterprise. We are going to really prove and show that every hustle matters. And we are going to do this as national government, but also sit down with the national government, with the county government, to ensure that this is done. I should say, Honorable Rahim, that DRC is one of our most promising markets for Mira and Mogoka. And I'm saying that Mira and Mogoka because if I leave it to Honorable Rahim, it's only going to be Mira. But I also have a lot of presentation from people from Embu and other counties that we do open this market for DRC. Not yet, but it is immense market and huge market. So once this market is open, we are going to ensure that Mira is also not only processed but get into this market. Finally, on the issue of how can we help our people to manufacture. Kenya is the only country where we expect someone to come up with an idea, and we expect them also to have good management, and also we expect them to have the money. In other countries, it is enough just to have a good idea. Somebody else comes under my ministry. We are going to avail business capital and credit for anyone who wants to do manufacturing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Everybody will ask, so don't worry. Emase, Mishi, Emase, Raso, Amisi. We start with Mishi. Oh, Mishi is not...
No, with me.
You are ready? Okay. One question each, please. I'll start with Mishi.
Okay. Yeah.
Then Emase, then Raso, then Amisi.
Thank you, Chair. First, I want to say thank you to the nominee because of giving us the information regarding Dongokundu Special Economic Zone. I want to inform you that it cut across Mombasa and Kwale, in fact, in my constituency. My question would be, currently we have seen so many manufacturers opting to leave Kenya because of overtaxation, increase in cost of production, and even environment in terms of business. Again, we have seen our informal traders in our counties or rather our cities. They've been harassed, and also the issue of taxation. So how do you intend to collaborate with the county government to ensure that you intervene on this matter? And again, how are we going to ensure that we are bringing back the manufacturers? A good example is the Sensodyne and Panadol, which they left this country because of the so many reasons I've just mentioned. So what will be your intervention to ensure that we lure more of them to come back to this country so that we can create employment and then it can be game changer in our economy? Thank you.
Honorable Emase.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The nominee for trade, you realize that our products from the neighboring countries, especially agricultural products, have flooded our markets. And sometimes our farmers are forced to sell their produce at very low prices. A case in point is the issue of sugar, which is one of importation of sugar, which is one of the factors ailing the sugar industry and has contributed towards crippling our industries in the western region, like the Mumias Sugar Company and others. Now, my question is, how do you intend to open and develop new markets for Kenyan products in addition to the traditional ones? And I mean local, regional, international, and in the spirit of bottom-up, so that we have markets even in areas that need markets. With the anticipation of the Hustler Fund, would expect us to open more markets in our villages so that those mamambogas, the borders, they receive a market from within ourselves. And I'm glad that you mentioned the issue of exploring other markets in the region, like Congo with 100 million population, Ethiopia with 121 million population. So if we leverage on our bilateral, friendly bilateral relations, then I think we should be able to open so many markets and therefore create a market for our produce. Thank you.
Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Moses, mine is about the high cost of doing business in Kenya, particularly in terms of licensing. That if you want to invest or open a radio station, commercial for that matter, actually it is placed way out of the ability of an ordinary Kenyan. And these are among the many investment that Kenyans can do. I also heard you talking about Ethiopia. As we are talking, Ethiopia is a big market, but the problem is the border. Right now, the Ethiopian border at Moyale is closed, and yet it is a very vibrant area that a lot of exchanges of goods, money, even the opening of Safaricom has opened a new avenue for Kenyans and Ethiopians to do business. Finally, you are also an entrepreneur and a first rater for that matter. We are looking east, but also we are doing a lot of things in the west. And also there is a market within the Middle East that a lot of Kenyans are putting their money there. From where you sit, where should Kenya eventually look to get better value for money and also to allow the growth of SMEs? Because I think a lot of goods in the West are not affordable to the ordinary Kenyans. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Amisi.
Yes, I will revisit this issue of African continental free trade area. As much as we agree it's a milestone in trying to expand our African market, but when you revisit the European Union, the establishment of the European Union trading blocks has its own merits and demerits. As much as it increased the overall performance in terms of trade of the European countries, it results us to Brexit. And of course, the reasons is this kind of asymmetric relationship where one country feels that it is being eaten more than it is receiving. Are we learning, as much as we are progressively going towards the African free trade agreements, which some countries have even shied away from ratifying? Are we having lessons learned from Brexit so that it's not repeated in this new ventures? What are these lessons we learned? How can we approach this African trade, free trade continental area as a country so that we don't
and we have committed ourselves to sit down as a government to look at what we can be able to do, because our current policy, if you look at areas like tea, is actually incentivizing not manufacturing, not value addition. It is much easier and much more profitable to export tea which is not processed. So just tomorrow, the president is expected to outline our manufacturing agenda for the next 10 years in a public event. And if I would just say that the issue of if you want to manufacture in Kenya, you are going to find a friend in the government of Kenya. If you want to make Kenya a dumping ground for goods from all over, then you are going to be in for a very rough time. So this is a discussion of how do we use our taxation policy to ensure that we remain competitive. Of course, one of the things we are offering, and we are having that discussion with KRA, is that us as a Ministry of Trade, we are going and manufacturing and investment, we are going to be at the forefront of helping to expand the tax base and to help in rationalizing and making efficient policies of how to collect tax. In return, we expect that once we increase our tax revenue, and we are going to do that because we want to embark on a system of voluntary tax payment by our business community. The culture of weaponizing our KRA is over. Instead of weaponizing KRA, we are working to ensure that our business community voluntarily, through an efficient tax system, they pay taxes. In return, we'll be asking that some of the areas where we can be able to reduce our taxes to spur manufacturing, then we can do that. Of course, and I want members to have indulgence of members in this area. We are bound by the East African community, the common external tariff. So what we do still is, our hands are sort of tied by the EAC protocol, and more significant by COMESA, because COMESA goods from COMESA countries like Egypt, which have got much lower cost of production, they are supposed to, they can enter into this market duty-free within the COMESA setup. So I am cognizant of that, and I'm aware that we have to look at those factors which are making goods, especially from countries like Egypt, to be more competitive. Nowadays, we are even complaining about Uganda. I think if our grandfathers wake up, they will be shocked. How can Kenya start complaining about Uganda? What happened? I was in Uganda the other day, and I was talking to the trade minister of Uganda about eggs. I come from a county that is known for exporting, for producing eggs, Kiambu County. And we told him, look, our farmers are complaining that because of your eggs, and this also answers to a question by Honorable Mary Amasi, that we are not getting a market for eggs because of floods from Uganda. And the Minister of Trade of Uganda told me something very profound. Every week, Uganda imports 1 million day-old chicks from Kenya. 1 million. So we are very good in producing day-old chicks. So these chicks go to Uganda, they become mature, they lay eggs, and then we refuse the eggs. And he was asking me, how can you refuse eggs from your own chicken? Because they are coming from us. And the answer is very simple. It's about our cost of production. That is why sometimes when I get surprised about people who are opposing our policy on GMO, because only GMO is going to level the field between us and Uganda. As long as we continue to oppose GMO, we should not complain about Uganda, because Uganda, every centimeter of Uganda is arable, and so the cost of production is much lower. And that speaks also to the question of sugar. We have got 3, 4, 5 sugar companies here. There are 17, Mr. Chairman, sugar companies in Uganda. So unless we look at the issue of efficiency, the issue of competitiveness, the issue of the cost of production, then we are not going to help ourselves much. Egypt is another major problem. Let me not call it a problem, but challenge, because it is clear that
the legends. And familiar chants will grace KBC once again. Don't
Northern Kenya is not the food basket of countries like the Middle East. We have got opportunities in Oman, we have got opportunities in the UAE, in Saudi Arabia. Just we have not been getting it right on this issue of exports of meat. Kenya, we are blessed. We are the only country where meat in some areas is food for poor people. In other countries, it's food for rich people. Because we have got abundance of animals and meat, and much as we consume a lot of that locally, we can export that. So my plan for Northern Kenya, areas like Marsabit, Samburu, Garissa, Wajir, when we come to the issue of setting up what I'm calling the Center of Excellence for Manufacturing and Agro-Processing, that we do focus on setting up. I already have a suggestion by people who want to set up huge animal processing factories in areas like Samburu and Marsabit, and every part of this country. There is no useless part of Kenya. The gold that is lying in some of this country is immense, and we are going to open those markets. Honorable Caleb Amisi is talking about Kenzit. Is that what he has called it? The possibility of Kenya exiting from ACFTA. Let me put it this way: Africa is trading with itself only 19%. So ask yourself, where is the other 81% going? We are importing from outside. Compare that with 69% for Europe, 51% for Asia, and allowed that 1% for North America. So we have not even entered for us to exit. We really need to do something to bring up this opportunity for intra-Africa trade. We are way behind other regions. And Kenya and East Africa, instead of having even small fights between us and Tanzania, small fights between us and Uganda, we need to hold hands together. And in my informal discussion with the trade ministers of this country, I've told them we need to look at this beyond our rivalry, our sibling rivalry within the East African region. Hold hands, go out there, sell in Ghana, sell in South Africa, sell in Morocco, take advantage. There is a very huge opportunity. So I think we are going to be structuring our final protocols within the CFTA, and we are going to ensure that we put every effort to ensure that we don't do something today that we are going to regret tomorrow and want to exit. Kenya has everything to gain from a CFTA. As a trade minister, it is, if I'm approved, I intend to be the lead champion of CFTA within Africa. I've requested His Excellency the President to actually be the main champion from the presidential level of CFTA, because we have huge opportunities in this area. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair, just briefly to clarify, actually the point was not to exit. The point was, what can we learn from Brexit?
Thank you, sir. That's a good question. That's a good thing. But I think how to run from that is to clarify our vision. We are going to clarify our vision.
Brexit was not trade. It was nationalism.
Yes.
And politics.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It was not trade.
But here...
and Britain has still secured its very safe trade activities and engagement with Europe.
There's no...
So I would advise my dear younger colleague that, a driver should not drive in anticipation of an accident.
Yes.
We should be positive.
Chair, I think you are speaking not just as a chair of this committee, but also as one of the past predecessors in my ministry. I'll be coming for some more Kenyans and some briefing notes from you, because you had a very successful stint as a Minister for Trade. I think there's one question I think that made me, but I think it's important, from the Honorable Koech about cotton. Indeed, we have a problem. We say we are in the manufacture of apparel, but actually we are in the business of stitching. We are in the business of stitching because of cotton. Yet there exist huge opportunities for growth of cotton in some counties. county alone can be able to supply us with cotton. So we are going to look at this issue of Rivertex and create value chains within the cotton, ensure that within 8 to 10 years we can be able to be self-sufficient in cotton. Tanzania is very much on that route, and because of the huge opportunities within AGOA, especially if it's extended, then I think that is something that can be able to help us. There is somebody, I think, Honorable Wanyonyi, who mentioned something that I also don't want to disappear, about this graduate who is teaching sewing. I think there's nothing wrong with sewing, and I really applaud that gentleman. I told myself I am a tailor because I'm in this industry and I'm very highly educated and qualified. What we need to do is to make that gentleman benefit from sewing by giving them capital and introducing them to things like EPZ and AGOA. Because the problem now is that we are not taking AGOA to that gentleman. If we are taking AGOA to that gentleman, he will be very proud to be a tailor. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Shall we have Naisula, Gikaria, and Mule?
Backbenchers. So thank you, Chair. And to the nominee, there has been a big focus on tea, coffee. I've heard you say ndengu, all that. When it comes to trade, while I believe there's a whole industry that as a country we have not really tapped, and I've heard you say something about northern Kenya, and that is the skin, hides, horns, hooves, all that. Very few people know that our buttons are made from hooves. And just our neighbor here, Ethiopia, has really maximized this industry. And I believe that people just got independence the other day. So what do you think are some of the constraints that have hindered full exploitation of this industry, and what interventions can be put in place once you are approved by this committee and sworn in?
Thank you, Chair. Sorry.
Please ask your question.
Okay, Chair. Vice Chair. And pongezi Moses for your appointment to this. As I ask this question, I will also ask a question which has just been asked by a Kenyan who has told me to ask. The question that I wanted to ask, of course, notwithstanding the separation between under Schedule 4, what the national government does and what the county government does, how do we intend to collaborate with the county governments to ensure that informal traders in Nairobi and other cities are not subjected to harassment and overtaxation by the county governments? That is my question. But also, this ministry has been renamed Trade, Investment and Industry. In light of that, on matters to do with what is investment? And what this Kenyan is asking is, we are talking more about Kenyans doing investments, but we have people from outside the country coming to invest, but they are closing down. And some of these investments that are coming down or being closed is ShopRite, which was, I think, a supermarket. And now there is another company that has already given notice. And of course, many Kenyans are going to lose their job. There is this other company called Game. It's under the MassMart group of companies, and it's coming to an end again. So we have investors coming in, and then within a short period again they are walking out. But generally, what is investment?
Kari, I'm told you have asked 4 questions.
No. Only a question. One.
Okay.
Actually, it's only one.
Okay.
The other one was from a Kenyan who really wanted to.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to go back to the nominee on the issue whereby our trading partners from several parts of the world are calling us or are saying that we have very stringent conditions of export. And then I take that with also very
punitive taxation policies we have within the country gives the reverse vice versa of the trade imbalance in this country. And if I can elaborate that briefly, if you look at a product like petroleum, it attracts close to 7 different taxes. I can name them, Honorable Kuria, VAT, IDF, road maintenance levy, petroleum development levy, railway development admiralty levy, merchant shipping levy. Now, from where you are sitting, the internal punitive taxation we are having for products coming in and products we are exporting, where do we balance the trade of this country to level it to the common mwananchi to make sure that we bring the cost of trading down and affordable products for Kenyans, whereby the government will still make more money because of the volumes. Because if this trade goes, you can be assured as a trade minister, your volumes of export and import will decline, and then you will have no revenue. Thank you.
Yes, Moses, can you?
Thank you, Chair. Very important question that I think several members have asked on this issue of county and national. If I get you right, members are saying, yes, we've heard what we are going to do on the national level, but you have no control over county level. Let me say, trade, industry, investment is interrelated from national level to county level. And I have had this discussion with the Chair of Council of Governors. We are going to have a trade and industry conference soon for counties, for us to establish a framework of working, how we are going to work together between the national government and the county government. That conference, we are going to develop work together on a charter that is going to guide how both the two levels of government are going to approach the issue of trade and the issue of manufacturing. That is the charter that is also going to see how we work together to establish the export hubs, the aggregation hubs within the counties. We cannot do that unless we also agree jointly within the two levels how we are going to treat our business people and our traders. And it is not inconceivable that we are creative around the issue also of licensing. I would want to see a single business license for both county government and national government. The other murky area is even inter-county licenses, especially in areas like logistics and transportation. You find somebody coming from Kisumu as a transporter, they pay some levy there to some county there, they come to Bungoma, another county, they come to Nakuru, another county. By the time these goods are getting to Nairobi, it becomes unmanageable. So I think because we are serving the same people and we are one country, there is need for county government and national government to come together through this intergovernmental charter on trade and investment, which is going to address some of these concerns, so that one party does not behave well. If the other party does not equally behave well, then it's counterproductive. And by the way, our people and the business people and the traders and the manufacturers, they wouldn't care less whether it's county government or national government. That is for us here who know. So I believe that with sufficient goodwill, so with really a spirit of cooperation between the national government and the county government, we can be able to work together on this. Let me address also the question by Honorable Naisura Resuda on the skin and heights and leather. You don't need not to go further, and I'll ensure that I dispatch a copy of the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto to Honorable Naisura or any other member who would be interested, because we are very, very loud on the issue of skin and height. I was involved in a lot of economic forums which gave birth to this manifesto. Our people are very clear, and I think I want to somehow, I don't want to blame him, but one of the members here, the honorable member for Kikuyu, his constituency is the one which created a culture of throwing away skin so for them, they were only interested in the meat. So we need to have a new center of excellence away from Dagoretti and Kikuyu to know that skin and hide is not for just throwing away. Because now our culture is, after you finish with the meat, that the skin, meat and that the rest of it appears as waste. There is very huge potential, and we can really.
Chair, now that the CS nominee has mentioned that issue of hides and skins, maybe it's one of the issues he needs to look into, because it is not the people that chose the culture of throwing away hides and skins. It's actually government policy that has driven them from throwing away the hides and skins. Because a hide that was trading at almost 800-900 shillings today is trading at about 80 shillings.
Yeah.
So the challenge actually is on you, if approved, to make sure that you take back the trade of hides and skins. And also opportunities, as you are saying, in the region. What happened is that people can no longer export raw hides and skins. And maybe, Chair, if you allow me, as a further question, now that you have brought in that issue, it is the same issue that we have with edible oils. Big manufacturers and big traders basically sit using the ministry, especially using the East African tariffs, to kill competition. I think if you look at the issue without mentioning particular companies in the country, the question of edible oils, there are traders who are importing edible oils into this country, but certain huge manufacturers, and I'm sorry to say so, but mostly of the Asian descent, have used their leverage with people in government to make sure that small importers and small traders are not able to import. And the Honorable Junet, if he was still here, he would tell you, because we were sharing with him earlier, people now can't import edible oils. It's the same thing that happened to the trade with hides and skins. A few people came together, influenced government policy, and killed the business of very many people in Kikuyu, Dagoretti, in Ruai here in Nairobi, in Naivasha, in Mariral, and all the other abattoirs that you know that I know.
Chair, thank you very much, through the Chair. I want to assure the Honourable Member for Kikuyu and the Honourable Member for Samburu West, I will ensure that there is good money for hide and skin. So you can tell your constituents not to throw them away. In any case, our people are very hardworking. You don't even need to tell them. As soon as we improve the market, we are setting up the leather, some leather zone somewhere within the river. Land has been set aside, and I have also some proposals from northern Kenya for hide and skin. Hide and skin is going to be one of the most sought after commodity, and so I think that this is going to open a completely new business there. I hear you on the issue of edible oils. I have heard through the outgoing cabinet secretary for trade and industry, 2 weeks ago there was an issue of where some edible oils were condemned. So I requested her that I want to familiarize myself with the issues of crude oil, of edible oils, and I asked her, please bring me the manufacturers. And we had this meeting in her office, and I was expecting to find a full boardroom. There were 6. And I said, was it boycott? I said, no, these are the only people. So I am saying of that matter, and I want to assure you that the issue of micro manufacturing, giving even that Kekambura guy who would want to be in this business, I have had discussion with our ambassador in Malaysia about how can we be able to streamline the availability of CPO, crude palm oil from Malaysia, which is giving these big manufacturers an advantage for also the Hazara manufacturer. But again, that's why again we come to the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. There is more CPO, crude palm oil, in Africa than in Malaysia. And as we sell them our tea, as we sell them our coffee, as we sell them our horticulture, avocados and all others, we are going also to explore the possibility of these Hazara manufacturers being able to access crude palm oil from within Africa. One thing associated with this, because now Honorable Naisura, I know I wanted to preempt her because I had come prepared for her, but she missed the question. So because I had done enough study on it, so let me just say, so that it doesn't go to waste. On the issue of Shanga, for the pastoralist community, I've had discussion with the Shanga initiative, which is currently in the office of the president, and it is my intention to place Shanga pari passu with all other exports, even giving them space within our EPZ, so that this industry is employing a lot of people, especially women, within Samburu, within Narok, Kajiado, and all other areas. So the Shanga is now going to be in the list of exportable. It's already in the list of AGOA. So if I'm approved by this house, I'll ensure that we work with the pastoralist areas, not only for the leather, hide and skins, but also for promoting Shanga as a source of income. Honorable Kekalia has asked a question on investment. Why we have found it necessary, His Excellency the President has found it necessary to include investment. Indeed, investment in this country has been an offer. Most of the functions have been hidden somewhere within the national treasury. And because of that, it has a lower priority. Well, because treasury has got burning issues of managing our debt. That's a full-time job of our macroeconomic stability. That's a full-time job of balancing our exchequer within the difficult conditions which we are going through, of managing our budget. And so therefore, investment had been relegated to the back burner of the national treasury priorities. And His Excellency the President thought that there is need to create a dedicated state department for investment so that we can be able to give a full, completely new focus on alternative means of financing our development, focusing on the PPPs, focusing on FDIs, giving conditions that are conducive for domestic investment, converting Nairobi into an emerging financial center like the way we have got Dubai, Hong Kong, and all that. So the whole focus of non-budget financing is why we have now included investment as a very serious agenda within the Ministry of the former Ministry of Trade and Industry. And indeed, what you're going to find out, because you have got so many investors walking around here saying, I want to invest in this, I want to set up this, but nobody was there to give them attention. So because of this new focus, we are going to ensure that we take investment back to where we are. Now, on the issue of question by Honorable Stephen Mule about our competitiveness. First of all, let me address this issue of GSK because yes, the business environment for manufacturing is hostile, it's not conducive. But also, let us also separate fact from other stories, because GSK had two arms in Kenya. They had one arm for manufacturing and the other arm for trading in pharmaceuticals. What they have done, the trading one, which is not about manufacturing, they have, it is the one that they have relocated. So we really lose nothing because they are not doing manufacturing, they are doing trading. The one they were doing manufacturing, it still exists. They have given it to a franchisee, and that is happening. Am I saying that we don't have a problem of business development for manufacturing? No. Am I saying that we need not look at our tax regime, our cost of power, and all those other factors which are frustrating our local manufacturing? No. But I'm also saying that sometimes what appears as a problem is not a problem, and some of it is lack of information. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Chair, I want to add on what Honorable Kuria has said. Honorable Kuria, we have a problem of manufacturing. If you go to industry area, most godowns are closed down, about 348. So there's a problem and we need to address that.
Chair, I would want to ask Honorable Mukami, because he's a long-standing member of the Trade Committee, to ask all those who have gone back, tell them the sheriff is here, come back. Thank you.
Speaker,
Moses,
just one clarification from Moses. Probably, Moses, you didn't get me well on the issue of the VAT and like the petroleum products that are requested. My concern is very simple.
The taxman is very happy today to complete the cycle of his target. But what is the implication of that collection of the tax from Kenyan vis-a-vis our affecting our export and our import to enhance trade? If I'm clear.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. Indeed, Honorable Mule, the Kenya Kwanza government and the president are taking steps in this direction. As you know, the first thing that the president did upon being sworn in is to do away with the fuel subsidies so that we can have a more market-driven dynamics within the fuel sector. So this is painful to Kenyans, but it came with one thing, which is very good. We are just waiting for Parliament, for committees to be constituted so that we can bring our initial amendment. Part of that is a PDL, the Petroleum Development Levy. Now that we have gone to the floating market of petroleum, that will be the first one to go. We are also going to look, with the consultation with the Parliament, to some of the other levies, not talking about levies. Let me address the issue of railway development levy. The problem with these issues is that they are also integrated with other issues. We know very well that this is a ring-fenced levy which is going to financing the SGR. That is why it is very important that we all ensure that SGR becomes profitable by itself, so that we within the fullness of time we can be able to do away with this levy. If Parliament coming to the RMLF, the roads maintenance levy, if Parliament in its wisdom decides to donate the money that we give for 10% and 22%, then maybe we can look at this particular. But of course, you know, that will create other problems for the people of Matunguru, and I'm sure they're not going to like that. So it's a continuous process. We are going to have a continuous engagement. Yes, we need to look at the issue of taxation. We need to broaden the tax base so that we don't overburden one particular sector with taxes. Why today petroleum is a target for the taxman all the time is because of our narrow tax base. But if I am approved as a minister in charge of trade, I am going to sit down with our traders and manufacturers and ask as many people to pay taxes so that we share this burden evenly and stop overburdening some sectors like petroleum. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. You have had your bite. Yes, Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Maybe Moses, just a quick one, is the African Free Trade Area. And the greatest concern, even when we were in EU ACP, is the issue of borders. You talk with a lot of confidence on that. What gives you that confidence? Because it is a greatest concern.
I think I almost missed Honorable. What he's saying is that I did not answer his question. But yes, I apologize because you had asked that question. Let me address Ethiopia. Because in the discussion that the President had with the Prime Minister Abiy 2 weeks ago, the issue of Moyale border post arose. And I would want to assure you that a committee is already formed and in place addressing all the concerns from a custom point of view, from a security point of view. We are going to address all those issues and we are going to reopen the Moyale border post within the shortest time possible. During the Uganda National Day celebration, for those who may have missed the President's speech, he said categorically, and that's the position of the Kenya Kwanza government, that we do not want to see a one-stop border. We want to see a zero-stop border. So that is a commitment of the government of Kenya going forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Moses. You have very romantic ideas about trade, and it's a good idea. Now, going forward, I would encourage you, one, to address with other agencies, because your minister alone will not do all you are saying.
Yes.
The ease of doing business in Kenya, the cost of energy, the agricultural sector that is key to your success. But above all, we belong to the East African community, I belong to the school of thought that Kenya should never be worried about products from Uganda or Tanzania because we sell much more to them than they will ever sell to us in the near future. The best is to harmonize the free movement of goods and services within the region. Thirdly, in this country, we have been psyched to believe that an investor must be a foreigner. We have a lot of local investors who can move from Mombasa and invest in Samburu, from Samburu invest in Moyale, Moyale invest in Kikuyu. You need also to encourage our local investors, avail them cheap credit. When people come in from other jurisdictions, they come in with loans that are concessional, that are very cheap from their countries. How do you leverage on our local banking system to help finance local investors? AGOA is a very sorry state for us. I would encourage you to fight through the AU because it was an African initiative. Donald Trump set on a mission to kill it for reasons that you know. Go to the AU through the trade committees, fight to reinstate AGOA. But over and above that, you will get to know that Bangladesh alone sells apparels to America more than the whole of Africa put together. Bangladesh, a very poor country. If we can be able to upscale our manufacturing, because it's duty-free access to one of the biggest markets in the world, fight to retain it, upscale our production. Beet cotton is here. How do we leverage on helping the farmers to grow more cotton? I know that may not be a docket. Last but not least, Kenya must fight to retain our competitiveness. There's a question here which we framed for you which has not been asked. Why are companies leaving Kenya to go and manufacture in Egypt and sell back? Colgate left. There are many others that have... which ones? Glaxo, SmithKline Beecham, Wrigley's, all this. Even butter now, Kenya is a trading post. There's very little manufacturing. How do we lure them back? Encourage them to manufacture in Kenya so that we can be able to create jobs, create wealth. You have your job cut for you. You have your know-it-all. You have impressed me, at least I must say so. If you can translate what you are saying into action, then you will be able to create a difference. We have had ministers in that docket who talk as much as you did and did very little. Please try and do what you say and say what you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Chair, if I may just comment on the issues of ease of doing business. Indeed, it is a big concern, and I expect to do exactly what you've just said. Work within my colleagues within government. An issue may be with energy, an issue may be with agriculture, an issue may be with another ministry, but my customer is the manufacturer and the trader. So the buck stops with me, and it's up to me to create that synergy within cabinet and within the other sectors, so that I'm the advocate for, irrespective of where the issue lies, and as well my colleagues within ESC and the region. A very important issue you mentioned about domestic investors. And my intention, if I'm approved by this House, is to really have all inquiries on all issues by investors within the Kenya Investment Authority, be they domestic and be investors or foreign investors. I know there has been that perception that investors need necessarily be foreigners. No, even local investors need to be treated well. What is lacking is that special focus on an investor as somebody with a choice. Investors have choices. But the mindset before has been that investor has got no choices, that the investor needs Kenya more than Kenya needs the investor. I intend to reverse that and ensure that we praise the investor out of it. Why are companies leaving? Companies are leaving because our cost is high. Our cost as energy is high. Our taxation is not assisting. That is in terms of cost, but also because of, sorry to say this, but I don't care attitude. In other countries, there's a principle called too big to fail, that any company having employed people is too big to be left to itself to decide whether it succeeds or it fails. It is a business of government. You saw during the financial crisis in the US, governments taking over companies instead of them failing, because they're saying, fine, okay, you have failed as a business, but what about the jobs? What about the taxes? So I intend to ensure that every business, before closing, they are free and open to come and have a cup of tea with me and ask ourselves, how can we as government be able to help that company from failing, so that we don't lose jobs and we don't lose taxes. You should have mentioned, Chair, Bangladesh, bigger than all of Africa. The textile industry alone employs 6 million people. If I was to just achieve just half of that dream, and put 3 million Kenyans in textile jobs in this country, from entire value chain, from cotton in Elgeyo Marakwet to the AGOA exporting EPZs, I'll deem myself very successful. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any member with anything? I think we'll now give you your last 3 minutes to tell us your wish and expectation from this committee.
Thank you, Chair.
Before you do that, when you finish, you see our legal officer, the lady in blue there. She'll see you as you go out. There's a letter that she requires you to respond to 1 or 2 things.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Chair, let me just say I've got a passion. And I am a practical person. I may sound with a lot of English, but I'm a very practical person. And I approach things from the mindset of an entrepreneur. So what I will bring to this ministry, if I am approved, is one is practical, tested pair of hands. I have got experience locally and international. I have got networks within many countries. I have got networks within this country. I've got a lot of networks among leaders, members of parliament. I understand where we are exactly, the needs of our people, and I am able to connect the dots. I know this ministry has had a lot of what we call kizungu mingi in the past. I intend to be different. I intend to talk less because I am exiting from being a politician to being a technocrat. I want to put it that I've had enough of talking. And going forward, you'll see more action and less talk of me. And it's not a loss, because in this parliament, I have groomed over 45 members, especially the new members who have just been elected, who have passed my hands in terms of grooming and tutelage. So I will leave the politics to them, focus on my job, work with manufacturers, work with the investors, both domestic and foreign, and really get things done. There's nothing I enjoy, Chair, than getting things done, working on results, solving problems, focusing on the issues, and really believing that we can do it. Finally, Chair, is on the whole issue of where are we going to get the money to drive this country forward. There's the leg room in our fiscal space, and I was in this house throughout my tenure until when I was rather unfairly removed. I was a member of the budget committee for 8 years. So I am very conversant with our fiscal situation. We are not in very good times. I am very much conversant of our debt situation, our debt servicing situation. We cannot continue to depend on fiscal measures, on budget, on spending to drive this country forward. It is time to focus on policy. It's time to focus on investment. It is my intention that I would want to see a situation whereby I match 2 for 1. For every shilling that you spend through the exchequer, I generate 2 shillings from non-balance sheet efforts like investment and public-private partnerships and generally enabling jobs to be created through other means other than spending. So we have agreed with my colleague, if he's approved, Professor Njuguna Ndung'u, that he will continue to take care of that one Kenya which has got debt, fiscal deficit, inefficient civil service, to the other Kenya which I want to spearhead, of where we don't depend on debts, on budgets, on deficit, but Kenya driven by investment and opportunities. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Moses Kuria. We are now come to the end of our discourse with you, and you are at liberty to go and carry out your other duties.
Thank you, Chair.
Subject to talking to the clerk wants some documentation from you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members.
Can I usher out the Honorable Kuria? Honorable members, I think this will be the right time to stop and adjourn our business today. Tomorrow we resume at 8:30 like we did today. We have yet another 5 nominees to deal with. We want to ask the sergeant that we'll leave our files here like we did yesterday. Ensure the security and safety, and may you have a good evening.
Afande.